My God, when I saw this story, I was shocked. Just absolutely shocked and enraged. Kyle Griffin, producer for MSNBC's The Last Word, tweeted, ICE detained a man while he was driving his pregnant wife to the hospital. He was taken when they stopped for gas. Quote, my husband needs to be here, Maria del Carmen Venegas said. He had to wait for his son for so long and someone just took him away. Oh my God. 10,000 retweets on this post. I can't believe that ICE could be so cruel. And so let's look at this other. This is Daniel Dale, a Washington correspondent for the Toronto Star. It's really, I find this fascinating that he's Canadian, but reporting in America. I mean, obviously they have their reporters. ICE arrested a California man on Wednesday when he stopped for gas while driving his wife to the hospital for her C-section. She ended up driving herself the rest of the way, giving birth alone. 24,882 retweets. Why would ICE do this? Why would ICE pull over a couple and take away the husband when the wife is on the way to the hospital to give birth in a scheduled C-section? Well, this story has gone really viral, but guess what? Really viral. But it turns out there is an actual reason why ICE did this. I will point out before moving forward, it really does suck that a pregnant woman lost her husband when she was just about to give birth via C-section. And when you look over at BuzzFeed, you see this story, ICE officers arrested a man driving his pregnant wife to the hospital for a C-section. I want the suspense to build up a little bit because I assure you there's a reason they did this. Because the story does seem really extreme. Now, first of all, the man is an illegal immigrant in the United States, and so ICE is going to enforce that regardless of if there are any extreme circumstances. If they catch somebody, they're going to arrest them and then probably deport them. So let's look at this story. I don't want to read necessarily the whole thing, but let's look at this. A 36-year-old man driving his pregnant wife to Southern California for a cesarean section was detained. They say that the two officers asked for identification. She provided hers. Now, this is really interesting how they go through the story, how we see the viral tweets. And actually, I want to pull up this CBS local story from the other guy too. I told them we had copies at home and they could come with us. We were only 3 blocks away. They didn't accept that and asked Joel to get out of his car. So it's possible this man wasn't actually undocumented, right? And that's kind of how they're framing it at first. But let's figure out what really happened. Let me just jump to it. Can I just jump straight to it? A spokesperson for ICE confirmed to BuzzFeed News that Arona Lara was detained after living in the U.S. illegally. So ICE has confirmed this was someone living here illegally. Now, you might be wondering why ICE would actually detain this person when they're going to the hospital so his wife can give birth. Well, they have a reason for that too. Something that was missed by a lot of these viral tweets. The agency initially did not say if he had a criminal record, but later confirmed that Arona Lara had an outstanding warrant for homicide charges in Mexico. Oh, this guy was wanted for murder. That's why they took him in. Because he is a fugitive wanted for murder living in the U.S. illegally. If someone in the U.S. murdered somebody and fled to Mexico, you'd have to imagine Mexico would send them back. So while I will say, yeah, it really does suck that a wife would have her husband taken away just before giving birth, I also have to weigh that against what's worse. A woman has to give birth and she needs her husband by her side, or this guy literally, he's wanted for killing someone. And it says homicide charges. That's plural. I then have to wonder if this guy killed more than one person. Is this person a serial killer? What do you think is more indefensible? Would you prefer a wanted murderer go to the hospital with his pregnant wife, or would you prefer the police detain the wanted murderer? It's a tough question, right? So let's go over to CBS and see how. So basically, you have the whole start of this story. You'd think that'd be important information right away. I mean, if I was going to report this, I would say ICE detained a man who was wanted for murder while he was headed to a hospital with his pregnant wife. I think that's the relevant information, and BuzzFeed News can report it however they want. But you see this headline, ICE officers arrested a man driving his pregnant wife to the hospital for a C-section, omitting the fact they arrested a man. What if they said ICE officers arrested a wanted murderer driving his pregnant wife to a hospital for a C-section? I think that would be very important. There was a story not too long ago about the Swedish student who was, she stood up on an airplane, refused to sit down because she didn't want Sweden to deport this Afghani man. And a bunch of people cheered for that too. And I don't have the source of this, I could be wrong, but apparently, I believe it's true that he was wanted for assault. Yeah, he was being deported because he assaulted someone and Sweden was like, get him out of here. But then I heard that the assault was actually like he beat his wife. And so I'm like, what? I don't know where the line is. What's the morally correct thing to do? Should we defend the guy who assaulted somebody, a potential wife beater, because we don't want him to be deported back to the country they came from? Or is it more important to let the person stay in this country? What is morally right? A lot of people are like, dude, the guy shouldn't be in the country and he beat his wife and apparently his kids. I don't know exactly what happened. I could be wrong. But let's just look at this story because we know this is true. There's a lot of people who are omitting the fact that this dude is a murderer, and the story is going viral as if it was just evil ICE detaining this man who was simply looking for a better future. It's possible this guy came to the US because he was wanted for murder. If you were going to ask me why the average illegal immigrant comes to the United States, I'd probably say opportunity. If you were going to ask me why a wanted murderer fled Mexico to the United States, I'd say probably to avoid going to prison. And that's the story we have. So you see this tweet from Kyle Griffin. You know, it goes viral. It's got 10,000 tweets. And we can look at some of these responses. Somebody said, this is despicable. Is this what our country has become, taking fathers away when driving their wife to a hospital to give birth? I'm disgusted. And someone says, please, he was arrested for murder. Like, should we allow murderers to go to the hospital? I mean, you could argue that ICE could have maybe said, we're going to bring you in, but we're going to, cuff you and bring you to the hospital so you can be there for your wife while she gives birth, and then you're being deported back for the murder you committed, for the charges you're wanted for. Maybe that's the plausible, like, nice thing to do. But there's protocol, there's laws, and maybe the police were like, look, this guy's a murderer, he's got to go in. We have one response that says, click on the link, people, he's wanted for murder in Mexico, and it actually says so in the first line of the piece. You have to go beyond the headline. And then someone says, considering ICE hasn't been exactly forthcoming about their treatment of kids while in detention, I'm taking that claim with a grain of salt. So here's a challenge. I mean, should you outright trust law enforcement? The answer is, hell no. There was a Supreme Court justice, like a famous quote saying, like, don't talk to cops, just plain and simple. And that's a Supreme Court justice. You should never outright trust anyone, straight up. But we can see that this is getting ridiculous traction, and they say, someone said click the link, right? When you click the link, CBS News. This is why CBS News and local affiliates do a better job than these digital outlets like BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed News is not that bad, but that was still bad of them. Look at this headline. ICE detains man driving pregnant wife to deliver baby, says he is wanted for homicide in Mexico. Well, there you go. There's a headline. And they say says. Like they phrase this fair, like in a very fair way. They say this guy's wanted for murder. So they start by saying a newborn is without his father Friday after immigration agents detained the man. He was taking his wife to deliver a baby. I feel very bad right now, Maria del Carmen Venegas told CBS 2 News. Her husband, Joel Arona Lara, was driving his wife to the hospital. We went through this, so let's get to the point about the murder. An attorney representing Arona Lara on behalf of the nonprofit San Bernardino Community Service Center said those charges are unconfirmed. Emilio Amaya Garcia told CBS 2 he has been in contact with the Mexican consulate, who said it currently has no information about ICE's claim. So this is an absolutely fair take by CBS. They did the groundwork. Or actually, it looks like they're taking the word of the lawyer. So you have ICE and you have the lawyer. Now, the lawyer is saying unconfirmed, not denying it, and the police are saying it's true. So we don't even have a counterpoint. We don't even have the other side denying. We just have them saying they don't know yet. And you have ICE saying it's true. So even right now, it's kind of like, what do you do? Do we allow ICE to detain people and make claims? Look, I think law enforcement needs to be able to prove that they have a warrant, that this person is wanted for these things, because, I mean, it would suck if someone showed up to your house and just said, nah, you're wanted for murder in Mexico, even if, it's like, how do they know that, Are you going to take their word for it? That's what we have courts for, and judges need to put a check on this kind of stuff. So Garcia added, Arona Lara's detention paperwork shows he is in custody for being in the country without documentation, not for being a murderer. It's important. In the following statement from Friday, ICE makes no mention of homicide charges, only that Arona Lara was taken into custody, the agency's fugitive operation team. So here's the statement that they put out. Mr. Arona Lara, a citizen of Mexico illegally residing in the United States, was taken into custody Wednesday by ICE fugitive operations team, officers in San Bernardino, California. Mr. Arona Lara is currently in ICE custody pending removal proceedings with the Executive Office for Immigration Review, EOIR. ICE continues to focus its enforcement resources on individuals who pose a threat to national security, public safety, and border security. ICE conducts targeted immigration enforcement in compliance with federal law and agency policy. However, ICE will no longer exempt classes of categories of removable aliens from potential enforcement. All of those in violation of the immigration laws may be subject to immigration arrest, detention, and if found removable by final order, removal from the United States. Okay, one thing I want to point out is I don't know if ICE would make mention of homicide charges because ICE is not charging this individual with homicide. ICE is saying you are here illegally. And the reason they're enforcing this is that they view this person as a threat to the United States, okay? That if ICE believes this person was charged with homicide in Mexico and is a fugitive, and the fugitive operations team are the ones who took this person in, I don't think they're going to say, we've arrested him for murder because they don't have a warrant for murder. Mexico does. I also think it's really important we don't just take their word for it. So there's a balance. In the United States, I do believe, I could be wrong, that everyone has constitutional protections. Seriously, if you don't believe me, Google search this, because there's been a lot of debate on Twitter about it. But even tourists are granted protections under the Constitution. A lot of people say as non-citizens they don't have these rights, but again, I believe they do. I really do. So, Google it. I could be wrong. I'm not, this is on my main channel. I'd pull up all the data for you, but this is just me reading an article. All right. So, I think the important thing I want to bring up in this video is that CBS did a great job of trying to be balanced. While we don't know for sure if he's wanted for homicide, that's what ICE is claiming, and they say that it's true. And then you have, BuzzFeed, which kind of buries the lead. Oh, there it is right at the bottom. And the headline doesn't reflect that. But then you have the tweets from individuals who are, I'm not going to impugn the honor of Daniel Dale or Kyle Griffin. They probably chose what they thought to be important. But when people see the headline and they read these quotes, they don't know the full story. I assure you, if they added ICE claims the person was wanted for murder, they would not have 10,000 and 25,000 retweets. I assure you. Anyway, I've got to go down to DC for an interview, so thanks for hanging out. I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you all tomorrow on the main channel at 4.